On this episode of The Social Hour, Veronica Belmont, an OG queen of the social media space, is going to join Amber and I. We're going to talk about all sorts of good stuff, plus a social tip on how to search tweets from way back in 2006. Plus, would you pay for Path? A lot more coming up next.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Audio bandwidth provided by the new Winamp for Android, featuring wireless sync and one-click iTunes import. Now with free daily music downloads and full-length CD listening parties. Download it for free at winamp.com/Android. Bandwidth for the Social Hour is brought to you by CashFly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is The Social Hour with Sarah Lane and Amber MacARTHUR, episode 127, recorded Friday, September 6th, 2013. This episode of The Social Hour is brought to you by Social Media Solutions from SAP. If you're a social media manager at a large enterprise, gain insight and engage in social media with Social Media Solutions from SAP to improve your customer service and support experience. Take a guided tour at sap.com/twit. And by Shutterstock.com. With over 1 million high-quality video clips, Shutterstock helps you take your creative projects to the next level. For 30% off your new account, go to Shutterstock.com and use the offer code SOCIALHOUR9. And by Squarespace, the all-in-one platform that makes it fast and easy to create your own professional website or online portfolio. For a free trial and 20% off, go to squarespace.com and use the offer code SOCIALHOUR9. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another fun-filled Friday on The Social Hour, whatever day it happens to be when you're watching us from Twit headquarters in Petaluma, California. I'm Sarah Lane.
And I'm Amber MacARTHUR in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. Hello, Sarah. How's your week going?
It's doing great. It's doing great, Amber. It's very cold in the studio because we like to keep things temperate, but it's very hot outside in the rest of the Bay Area. So I'm looking forward to maybe opening my sunroof on the way home, which doesn't usually happen on the freeway.
I have to say it is beautiful in Toronto today. I just got off a boat, funny enough. I was doing some kayaking for a segment for the TV show I do here, and we were testing out apps in a kayak, which, can be a little dangerous based on having smartphones around.
Like,
I know.
Lost on your kayak? There's an app for that.
This is just my producer's way of getting us outdoors and doing field segments, which is actually kind of fun. But there were a couple of different apps we did. One, I think it was called Google Tracks, maybe, tracking your path. We did one called Wind Guru to get a sense of what the winds are like, which is great if you're going kayaking. So it was a nice Friday afternoon little trip. But I just got in, and beautiful day here, like I said. But it's gonna start cooling down, Sarah. I'll start complaining about the cold and maybe, I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks.
Awesome. Can't wait for that. Well, at least Toronto weather is, it's just more interesting.
It is.
I feel. Like, you're not always happy with it, but you do sort of swing to these extremes. So I at least sort of enjoy living vicariously through your highs and lows.
Yes, I have to say I lived in San Francisco for 3 years and I missed the seasons. That's one of the things I miss the most because I love that feeling of going into fall. But then in January, I'm kind of over it and I'd like to live back there. So it's, I don't know, it's all good though.
Well, it's funny that you say that you miss the seasons because our guest today, and it's been a while since we've had a guest, is a woman who really needs no introduction, but I'll introduce her anyway. Veronica Belmont.
Hello, ladies. How are you?
Good.
Great.
You're an East Coaster, Veronica. It's hot in San Francisco today. Do you share Amber's sentiment about missing the seasons?
No.
No?
I like it here. I am good with temperate. It's like 80 degrees today, and I'm not having it. I'm like staying inside. My office is nice and cool because it's kind of like in the lower level, so all the heat rises to the upstairs. And I'm like, yeah, it's nice in here. No, I'm not a big fan of super hot and super cold. I just got back from Asheville and Austin, and it was pretty hot over there. Not even as hot as it usually gets this time of year. And I was like a wilted flower. I was like, the evil day star. So I prefer our cloudy at 5 p.m., foggy at 5 p.m. San Francisco temperature.
I hear that. Well, I know that you were recently, over the holiday weekend, you were down in Atlanta for Dragon Con. And you and Tom Merritt, you've been to Dragon Con, what, 3 years in a row now?
Oh, no, 6.
6
5 or
years in a
6.
row. Oh, my goodness.
Wow.
We go a lot. We go every year. And we did a live Sword and Laser episode. That's our sci-fi fantasy podcast. And we interviewed our one of our favorite authors, Jim Butcher. And it was fantastic. We filled the whole room. It was great. We did an NSFW show with the guys, with Brian and Justin R. Young. And that was a lot of fun. And we had Michael Rooker on from The Walking Dead.
Awesome.
Which was crazy. He was awesome and psycho and super fun to meet. And yeah, it's a great event. It's we have a blast every year, and we just love getting to see all of our friends that we don't get to see the rest of the year. So it's always a good time.
Wait, just out of curiosity, because I know you go to a bunch of conferences, and we were just talking before the show how we were all at the same conference, the New Media Expo in 2008, which is a long time ago. But do you have a favorite conference? Is there one that you absolutely love more than any of them?
Oh, it's Dragon Con.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah, I'm a huge Dragon Con fan. I like the other conferences like Comic-Con, and E3 can be okay. CES is a nightmare. A living nightmare. But Dragon Con's just the best because it's a lot more family oriented, and it's sci-fi fantasy, and those are like, two of my biggest loves. So it's cool to just get around, get to hang out with a bunch of people who are as passionate about it as we are.
Do you think, especially the whole sci-fi and fantasy genre, obviously you pay a lot of attention to it because you're interested in it, and you also host a podcast that's about that subject matter, and you read a lot of books, and it's kind of your job, and it's also your love. But it seems to me, just a bit of an outsider and someone who's observing how the genre has expanded, it's a really big deal. I mean, I feel like Dragon Con a few years ago was something I heard about and went, oh, okay, that's a real niche type of a thing. And now it almost feels like Comic-Con, where movies, they want to be represented there, and people who are celebrities in the space want to be there and meet fans. Is that how it feels to you too?
It's still pretty non-corporate. I would say that compared to Comic-Con, which is, a few 100,000 people, I think it's like 150,000 people or something. Dragon Con is still, I think it's about 60,000 or 70,000 people. So it's smaller. And it spans like four hotels now. It's grown a lot in the past few years. It's in its 30th year of existence by this point. So it's a very long-standing con, but it hasn't really gone that very super corporate route. Like, you're not seeing movie ads, you're not seeing posters on the walls. Pretty much everything is just relegated to panels and discussions and like fun after parties and things like that. It's not really the kind of place where you would go to watch the new trailer for like the new Avengers movie or something like that. It's just, that's not really its style.
Interesting. Veronica, just because we cover so much on the social media side on the show is all about social media. I'm just curious if there are social sites that you're using now that, are you using Facebook as much? Are you loving Path still? What is kind of your top 3 social networks that you love to use?
Oh, that's a good question. Still Twitter is number 1 for me, for various reasons. Probably next would be Instagram. I love Instagram. I use it constantly. Definitely one of my favorites. And then, gosh, I don't really know what the third one would be. I use Facebook. I'm on it all the time, but I don't really like it. You know what I mean? It's not one of my favorites. I like Path, but I don't really use it all that often because none of my non-techie friends, and Sarah, we've had this conversation before about how it's really hard to get people who aren't, kind of deep into technology using Path. Maybe they have a little more use with teenagers and things like people like that don't really want all of their public stuff on Facebook. So they're smart. They're moving to Path to share stuff with their friends. But most of my adult friends are just not that into it. And I don't really know why. I would love to get them on there, especially because I love the messaging platform there. But what else do I use?
What about Google Plus? Because I know you're on Google Plus.
I don't use it as much as I should. I share a lot of videos there because the video player integration is really nice. But I don't think to go to it as much as I probably should.
Well, you mentioned Twitter. Twitter's your number 1, and I would agree. It's the social network I feel like, even if I don't get the response or people don't click on every link that I share as much as would be ideal, I do feel like it's very sort of alive and breathing and dynamic. What do you think about some of the changes that Twitter has implemented over the last year? I mean, the blue lines and grouping conversations is just the most recent, but Twitter's trying really hard to become more structured so that everybody in the world could join Twitter and not be completely lost. But do you feel like it's moving away from what the original mission was?
I don't think so. I'm not a huge fan of the blue lines, especially since I've been using an Android phone recently. So I'm on the dedicated Twitter app, the regular Twitter app. I haven't installed any third-party applications for it yet. And the blue lines show up and they take me kind of out of the context. Like if I want to follow a discussion, I can, on Tweetbot, for example, I could just go and do that on my iPhone. And now I feel like the discussions are more in my face than I need them to be, instead of it being helpful. But I like what they've done with the on the web interface to be able to click on a post and see if it's an article, see the summary of the article, or to click on a tweet and see all the people who have responded to it or favorited it or retweeted it. That kind of thing, I think, is there's a autumnal man, Mr. Autumn. Isn't he handsome? He's excited for fall. That's seasons.
I love it.
Mr. Autumn Man walking down the street
with
a
a
cup
Boston
of pumpkin spice
joke
coffee.
Or some sort of a thing? Oh, it's an Onion article. God.
Oh, it's from the Onion.
I was like, is that what people in New England say?
That's what I haven't heard that term, but I get it. Mr. Autumn Man. It kind of makes sense. I see that. As it starts to cool down, at least here, you see that sort of look. Like the cardigan sweater and the cup of
Ryan,
coffee.
my husband, was like, basically, that's me. You just posted an article about me. I was like, good point. I guess so.
Yeah, I like you, Mr. Autumn Man. Yeah. That's why we got together.
Yeah.
Veronica, you have a crazy amount of followers on Twitter, and I've always wanted to know. So, a couple things. First of all, I know that many people who just have a single name on Twitter say it's a curse. It seems like it's going to be great, and then everyone's trying to get a hold of somebody that's like a celebrity that shares my name. Veronica is not that common of a name. Do you have an issue with that, or do you feel like most people who are at replying to you are at replying to you?
The biggest problem I have with it is there's a TV station in the Netherlands called Veronica. And so a lot of times I know exactly what's on the show, what's playing right then, because people are tweeting about the channel. And they use the @reply syntax to do so. And I don't really understand why they do that. And sometimes I get a lot of responses from teenagers in the Philippines. And they use their replies in a very strange way. It's almost like they do an email, the subject line in an email where it goes like reply, re, colon.
Yes.
It's like that, but with @replies. Oh. So it'll just be this constant string of they reply back to each other. So you can see like the stacking of all of the handles that they've been replying to. And if there's a Veronica in there, sometimes it gets truncated and then they reply to me or they do the wrong Veronica. I guess it's a more popular name there. So that's really the only issue I have. It doesn't happen as much as it used to. I think people are kind of getting a handle on it, get it? But Ryan...
See what you did there.
Yeah. Ryan has @Ryan, and it's been stressful for him at times. It's a total first world problem, but it definitely, he's like, don't they know how to use Twitter? Like that's Ryan Gosling, Ryan Seacrest, people try to tweet at him about that.
I'm really impressed too on Twitter. Like Sarah said, you have a lot of followers, almost 1.7 million, but you're only following 946 people, which is actually pretty manageable, I would think, at the end of the day. How do you sort of pick who you end up following and keep it at that ratio?
I only follow people that I either know personally, have worked with, or I'm a big fan of their work. And that's just the kind of, it makes sense to me because I can't be so overwhelmed. I know it was very popular back in the early days of Twitter for people to follow back every person who followed them.
Sure.
And then, of course, Twitter put limitations on that, so you can no longer do that. But for me, that kind of stuff doesn't make sense. I want Twitter to be a useful tool. I use my replies tab to be able to keep up on conversations that people are having with me. But for things that I need to read, that's about all I can manage.
And one thing you had mentioned that you don't use Facebook as much. And I think, Sarah, we talk about that a lot on the show. Facebook still is such a popular social network, but we really kind of shy away from it. Veronica, I'm curious, do you think there'll ever be another social network like Facebook, or do you think that the market is just becoming too fragmented?
I think it would be pretty short-sighted for us to assume that nothing could topple Facebook ever. There's always something new, but it really has a pretty good stranglehold on the market right now. And I think you're right. I think a lot of social networks are catering to the niche markets, trying to find special ways to reach that audience that no one's kind of spoken to before. And those are all really fun. But just as a general platform, Facebook has kind of taken over in a really big way.
Yeah, I think I feel like the common sentiment among me and friends and coworkers is we all use Facebook, but no one really enjoys using it. It's not, it's like it's sort of a chore. You know, you're getting like some event requests from people where it's like, you know you're never gonna go, and
don't invite me on Facebook. Just never invite me to a thing on Facebook.
Yeah, it's like
I'll never see it.
Yeah, it's like, do you not want me to go to your birthday party? Make a Facebook event. That's a perfect place to do it.
I would rather get an Evite than an invite on Facebook. Like straight up, just send me an Evite.
That was way harsh. Way harsh.
Was it?
I'm kind of with you on that, though, with Facebook. Well, one thing I find about the Facebook community, which is a little bit frustrating, I don't know if it's just the people who I'm friends with, but when I go in there, I feel like it feels like people are complaining all the time about things, or it feels like a more negative social network than when I go to Twitter, where I feel like I'm actually getting information and news and content that I can really use. Where Facebook, it just feels like I'm being sucked into this place. It's like watching soap operas or something, and I just don't want to go there.
Yeah, I've had to mute a few people on my Facebook because I'm like, all right, yeah, either we're way off base with each other's like political views or things like that, and they're just spouting off crazy in my mind, or it's like, okay, that's like the 100th picture of your baby that I've never met or seen before. Like, I don't really need to see your baby. Stuff like that. That's why Twitter is a lot better for my use case, I would say.
What about the trend of, there's so many messaging apps out there. I think we all probably have taken them for a spin out of curiosity more than the average person. But Veronica, I know because we've sent back and forth a few Snapchats that we're at least trying out that medium.
I forgot about Snapchat. That's a good one.
There's Snapchat as well. And Snapchat I'm actually having a lot of fun with it because there's something very liberating about the fact that I'm going to send you something and you're not under any pressure to like heart it or comment or anything. It's there and then it's gone forever. And the concept of a lot of the stuff that people share doesn't need to be backed up or saved or part of a camera roll or anything. Do you think that this is the beginning of some sort of trend shift, or is this just Snapchat being the flavor of the month?
Well, it's funny that you bring that up because I think initially when Snapchat really, really blew up, people liked it because they could send something, inappropriate or funny and not have to worry about it being saved, which of course we later learned is not always the case, but it's still like that was kind of the purpose for teenagers for a long time. And now I'm finding more of my friends are using it. And maybe it's a kind of fatigue that we've had, like you were just saying, where it's almost too much pressure nowadays to post something to Instagram and see like, oh, are people gonna like this? Are they gonna heart this video? Or is it gonna be reshared somewhere on Vine? Is it gonna whatever? And now it's just like, okay, I just make this little piece of content. I think it's funny or interesting. I'm sending it to you, and then it doesn't exist anymore. That's it. It's just poof, it's gone. And I think I find it kind of refreshing.
It's interesting. I saw the first article I've ever seen that was talking about Snapchat being used by a brand. It's a fashion designer, Rebecca Minkoff. I think it was on Mashable yesterday, saying that they'll now be using Snapchat to preview their fall release of some of their products. And it's kind of interesting. So you follow them, and then you get a sneak peek of some of the things that they're putting out there. I'm just curious, are there brands that you follow or like that do neat stuff in social media that you think are good, or do you just hate the whole brand part of the social media experience?
I really like, I follow a few brands. I like Benefit Cosmetics. They're one of my favorites. They're really good about answering questions over on Twitter, and they've got some fun stuff. There's a lot of like fashion brands that I know of, but none are springing to mind right now. On like Pinterest and stuff, like I'll follow J. Crew because I like to, they published their whole fall lookbook on Pinterest before they did it anywhere else. So you could get a sneak peek at what was coming out on their fall line on Pinterest only. And then of course all the blogs picked it up and link to it from there. So it's actually making some pretty innovative ways for brands to engage with readers and consumers. And if they're doing it right, I think it's super interesting.
Yeah, definitely. I think the Snapchat example is something that I've never seen before, and it seems like they've had pretty good reception to that. But it's amazing to me, I think, even as soon as Vine comes out or these new services come out, how brands figure out a way to be able to use some of these different platforms. And the ones that are early and creative tends to spread very quickly. So it's neat to watch them come up with some pretty innovative ideas.
It's funny, too, because Snapchat doesn't really have the infrastructure or the UI for someone to mass promote something. Like, I'm now thinking, like, how does Rebecca Minkoff's people go through and select every single person in their contact list on Snapchat in order to send it? Because you can't group, right? There's no add all, send to all.
Right.
So that's really very intensive. And maybe Snapchat will change that in the future. But it seems really to be more of a small contact list kind of experience.
Mm-hmm. But it reminds me a little bit. I had a friend I was talking to earlier today who was mentioning a Four Seasons campaign, how Four Seasons is now using Pinterest. So if you mention that you're going to a specific Four Seasons in a city somewhere, then people at the Four Seasons will then go onto your board. You can invite them, I think, to your board or something like that, and they can add things that they think you should do in that city. And I'm thinking the same thing, like the Snapchat experience, how much legwork that takes on behalf of the brands. And it seems like the brands who are just doing a little bit of investment, now you're expected to do way more. I mean, you have to have pretty good teams and a lot of people on board to be able to manage some of this.
Yeah, a really invested intern, at least.
Yes. A lot of coffee. Yeah. Very cool. So what other projects are you working on?
Let's see. I'm still doing stuff for Pop Sugar. Still doing Techzilla over on Revision 3. We're having our last episode of Fact or Fictional this coming week. And Sword and Laser, as always, for the last 7 years, still going strong. Oh, we're actually just announced at DragonCon that Sword and Laser is joining the Boing Boing podcast network.
Oh, that's great. How did I not know that?
It's because we've only talked about it at DragonCon so far. We didn't really put it on the blog yet or post about it on Twitter. So
that's
we're
amazingly
really excited.
Great. Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, there's
awesome.
a lot of really cool people involved on the new podcast network. So
now,
you'll hear more about
are you going to bring back
forward.
the video podcast as well?
Well, we haven't made any official announcements yet, but we're cooking up some things.
Okay.
We're cooking up some things in our cauldron.
Yes, I will.
Double toil and trouble.
That's great. Oh, that's awesome. Well, obviously, I'm partial to that because it's two of my favorite people, Veronica and Tom, of course. Yay! I know it's so nice having you on the show because you're like you're probably one of the first social media people I considered a friend before I ever knew you back in the days of social. And it's like we've all been weathering this whole thing together,
weathering this crazy social media storm together.
It's nice.
Yes.
I mean, it's like, I'm sure that you, maybe you have, maybe you haven't. Amber and I are going to talk about it a little later in the show, but Topsy now allowing us to go search tweets from the very beginning of Twitter. I've been sort of walking through memory lane, and some of the people I was replying and kind of like trying to get a reaction from in those first few months even of me being on Twitter. It's very eye-opening. I had forgotten some of it. Sort of embarrassing at times too.
Oh, definitely. Yeah,
But,
I remember the first time I ever accidentally swore on Twitter.
Oh.
It was one of those moments where you're like, that was bad. That is going to be bad. And then it wasn't really that bad. It was just like I thought it was going to be way worse than it actually was.
Right.
I thought I was sending a DM. Remember those old days?
Oh yeah, the DM
accidentally
fails. I once tweeted
something you thought you
out
were
Martin
DMing.
Sargent's phone number because I thought I had it was when there was a lot more SMS Twitter syntax happening. And I thought I had the whole thing right. Yeah. And I just tweeted out his phone number and he wasn't happy about it. So,
No.
Yeah.
I would imagine he wouldn't be.
That was my faux pas. Well, Veronica, thank you so much for joining us. We know you've got a busy day. Hopefully you get to, go have some happy hour.
Yeah, definitely happy hour. I'm going to be all at the TechCrunch Disrupt Hackathon this weekend and at Disrupt next week as well. So it's going to be a busy weekend and week coming up for sure.
Cool. Well, thanks so much for joining us. It was tons of fun to get all three of us together and chit chat about some cool social stuff going on.
I thought the social hour just meant we just chatted for an hour, just had social time together.
You can
That's
do
not what
whatever
the
you
show
want.
is.
I mean, that's Amber and I feel like it's like we're almost getting away with something on the show. This is this doesn't feel like work. So it is an hour of social.
Nice.
And we talk about technology at the same time. Veronica Belmont, where do people go to find out more about everything that you are up to in the internet world and beyond?
You can head over to about.me/Veronica or veronicabelmont.com.
Awesome. Well, thank you for your website is different since the last time I looked at it.
Yeah, I got it redone.
Oh, it's nice. I love it. Oh, good stuff.
Video-centric site, yes.
Beautiful.
It was a long time coming. All right, I'll see you guys later. Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks so much,
Bye.
Veronica.
See you later.
See you later.
Oh, Amber, it's so fun. It's so fun to have another social media. It's like I want to say something like social media ninja or social media maven. And I know those are really dorky terms, but I really do feel like Veronica is one of those people. Like she's one of us. She does this for a living. She's right on board with all the stuff that we do.
Yeah, no, it was totally fun to have her on. And I have met her a couple of times, but, haven't run across her that much. I mean, I met her, though, before I met you, Sarah, which is, it took us a long time to meet. So
It did. We met, well, if meeting is IRL, that was still less than a year ago.
I know. Even at that event in 2008, we never saw each other. Because I saw Justine, I saw Veronica. Who else was there? Oh, Felicia was there. Felicia Day. I just saw so many people, but I guess we just didn't cross paths.
Which is weird because it wasn't even that big of a show. Well, finally, it was destiny. We were meant to be. Hey, quick reminder that we record the Social Hour live on Fridays, 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific. It's a lovely way to kick off your weekend, but don't worry if you ever miss us or you want to catch up on a show that you might have missed, you want to watch the Lil Bub episode again, wouldn't blame you. It's a pretty good one. You can go to twit.tv/TSH. That is our website where all of our show archives live. It's also where you can subscribe to the show. If you want to just get the show delivered to you in either audio or video form, the video podcast is fun, but hey, we know a lot of you commute or you're driving or you're exercising and you just want to listen. Go ahead and subscribe to the show that way. It's easy, and then you don't even have to think about when we record the show. It's all up to you. All right, we've got a bunch of news and tips and all sorts of good stuff. But first, let's take a moment to thank SAP for sponsoring this episode of the Social Hour. Amber, when Veronica was talking about how sometimes these tweets come in and she doesn't really understand who the tweeter is trying to reach, but it's clearly not her, and there's just a lot of noise. It made me think about the whole idea of if you're trying to follow some sort of a term or a brand or anything online, it can really be like trying to, I was going to say find a needle in a haystack, but more like a haystack full of needles and trying to make order of them.
Yeah, tons of it's just so hard. I think, especially these days where I don't know about you, Sarah, but I feel like everybody I know, everybody I meet even is on Twitter and using all these different social media accounts. So the penetration is so high. It's hard to be able to follow along with conversations or monitor what you're putting out there. I mean, definitely takes a lot of work.
Yeah, and if you work in the social media enterprise, and we know a lot of our audience and listeners do, it can be really challenging. I mean, this might be your job, and you want to stay on top of a conversation. You want to make sure your customers are happy. You want to make sure if they've got issues, you reach out. Veronica mentioned there was a brand. She said she really liked it because they're always responding in a rapid way on Twitter. That can be a challenge. How are you going to stay on top of that? Well, Social Media Solutions from SAP is designed to do just that. It's a tool for large enterprises, but it can be companies of a variety of sizes. So you can listen and engage with social media in a systematic way and not have to put too much thought into it. Just make it part of your workflow. There's a listening component. This is how you get all the information that comes in. Maybe somebody writes a review on some review site of your product, and this is something that you need it to be on your radar, and you want to follow up with that person, or they're tweeting about it, or they've written something on Facebook. There are all sorts of places that people may be talking about your brand, and you want to make sense of it all. Then there's the engaging component. It'll help you improve your customer service and support. You can set rules so that you can say, all right, anytime anybody has seems unsatisfied, we're going to route that query or that sentiment to John or whoever maybe on your team that's involved. If there's a tech support question, if somebody seems like they're kind of on the cusp of buying your product but needs that extra little push, and you want to be as helpful as possible, that's all part of the engaging component. It's how you give back and make sure that your customers are happy. Social Media Solutions from SAP gives you more than marketing by improving the customer service and support experience. Go to sap.com/twit. There's actually a really nice guided tour. You can get a better understanding of exactly what Social Media Solutions can provide your company. It's very, very insightful. Really help you do your job better. If you work in social media for a large enterprise, definitely go to sap.com/twit and see how Social Media Solutions from SAP can work for you. All right, let's go into some newsy items around the web this week. Amber, this first story is a little bit of one of these snafus that always seems to happen to brands. We just keep waiting for all the brands to wake up, but yeah, there is a ways to go when it comes to the way that folks respond to customers, isn't there?
Yeah, and I think with this particular brand, they've been in hot water before, and just yesterday, I believe, this was a tweet from Kenneth Cole, which seems to be made in response to military action or possible military action in Syria, and he had tweeted, boots on the ground, he put that in quotes, or not, let's not forget about sandals, pumps, and loafers. Hashtag footwear.
What?
Yeah, I know.
I mean, at this point, this is in line with what the Kenneth Cole account had tweeted. I don't know. It was a few months ago, wasn't it? Well, no, it was last year.
It was longer than that. I think it was in 2012, because I believe, based on this Mashable article, that it was one of the social media, the biggest disasters of 2012 as far as a brand doing something. So I can't remember the details of that, but it was along the same lines. It was making reference to something happening during wartime, and then bringing in the reference of clothing, and I don't know if it was footwear or something else, but the reality of it is that he got a lot of flack for this, and this has happened all over again. Now, what's really interesting, Sarah, and this is just sort of a follow-up in the past couple of hours, is that he did respond with a quick Instagram video. So maybe we should listen to that before we decide, where they're coming from.
How we feel? All right.
Mm-hmm.
I've always used my platform to provoke dialogue about important issues, including HIV/AIDS, war, and homelessness. I'm well aware of the risks that come with this approach, and if this encourages further awareness and discussion about critical issues, then all the better.
And he posted that on Instagram, of all places.
Yeah, and this seems to me a situation where Instagram is not the right platform. This takes more than a 15-second video. It takes something maybe somewhat more thoughtful. And I thought I was excited to see the video. I thought, okay, maybe he's come around and apologized for it. But for him to say that he's trying to raise awareness about what's happening, I mean, I do some work here in Canada with the Red Cross, Canadian Red Cross, and I just tweeted out yesterday that there's more than 2 million refugees from Syria. Half of them are children. If he wants to actually help, there are plenty of ways to do it, and it almost seems like he was using humor, and it seems inappropriate despite his 15-second apology.
Yeah, and, the apology... I don't know Kenneth Cole, so I have to assume that it's all good intentions. But the apology did seem rather defensive, not a heartfelt. You know what? I totally understand that I've offended people, and this was in poor taste. It was a little bit more of, well, I do a lot of really good things, so you should know that about me.
I mean, this is a situation where there's so many other ways that they could help out. They could donate money. They could raise awareness by talking about some of the stats and facts about the situation in Syria right now. I mean, they could raise awareness about political issues that are happening. But to make any reference to the crisis in Syria with 2 million refugees and to bring in your footwear, I mean, it seems like just a really inappropriate joke. I still I don't get it. And I think, he's living in La La Land. I mean, when I'm watching that video, I'm like, this person is not in touch with reality at all, unfortunately.
No. And I also wonder, I mean, it's almost so out of touch with reality that I wonder, do they figure that it's all good PR in the end because we end up talking about Kenneth Cole. If Kenneth Cole, the brand, and it might not even be Kenneth Cole himself who tweeted that, I don't know, it has had issues on social media where there was poor taste or things that were taken out of context or somehow just they weren't received well, and then they do it again. It's sort of like, is it really that you didn't learn your lesson, or are you just now in the business of provoking people and getting people to have your name at the front of their minds?
Yeah, and I don't buy the whole comment that he's just trying to raise awareness, because I think most people are understanding the situation in Syria right now. I mean, President Obama had a press conference this morning. I mean, I think it's one of those things that is everywhere you look. If you listen or watch any type of news, you're aware of it at some level. So I don't really buy that this is some type of cause that people just aren't aware of, right? So it seems, I don't know, a little bit short-sighted and very insensitive, I think.
I agree. Kenneth Cole, what will you think of next? I don't even know.
Don't want to know.
It's almost, it's a weird situation because I don't know. Maybe we'll have to see in a day or two what the comments look like on that Instagram video because I know it just got put up recently and it'll probably get some attention and people will have things to say about it and we've seen in the past where somebody who's in a position of celebrity or they're well known or they're the face of a brand apologizing, it's not good enough, and then they've got to go a step further. So maybe this might be one of those times.
Maybe what he doesn't understand, Sarah, is that now your tweets will never, ever go away.
That's right, because it's not even a Twitter feature. Oh, well, Twitter does allow a feature where you can download all of the tweets that you ever sent until, since the beginning of your Twitter life cycle. But Topsy, which is a third-party service, which has, over the past, I think it was last month, they allowed Twitter search not just for your own tweets, but for any tweet that happened until back in 2010. So it went back 3 years, which is, Twitter sort of infamously has never had much search functionality at all, even though it has bought search companies and integrated a little bit of organization into the Twitter historical experience. But Topsy, as of just a couple of days ago, will now, you're looking at my name, Brian. I was like, what is this? What are all these things? These are all tweets that anybody has sent since the beginning of Twitter. The first tweet was sent in 2006 by one of Twitter's co-founders, Jack Dorsey. I think it was just setting up my Twitter. was the tweet itself. But Amber, I tried to stump Topsy. I went in and because I remember what my first few tweets were. I just kind of remember that. And then I got really stuck in the past, and I spent all of this time, looking at like the first people who replied to me, and it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's a ton of fun. I did the same thing. I went and I was reading tweets that were, 6 or 7 years old, and it was interesting. And what I noticed about some of the tweets in the early days, at least for me, is that I knew most of the people I was tweeting with, and I cannot say that's necessarily true today. I obviously know some of them, but the network is just so massive today. But it is like a little trip down memory lane, being able to see some of those tweets sent out in the early days. And I even like some of the features that you can do in terms of tweeting in the past 7 days, past 2 days, whatever it might be. The search on Topsy is pretty impressive.
Yeah, it is. They've obviously, they're sort of all in on this whole. This is not actually a feature you really can get from Twitter itself. So we're going to be the place that you count on to be able to actually realistically find a particular tweet, in a particular date range from a certain user, or that a tweet that has a certain keyword, that sort of thing. Amber, I have to assume, because Twitter, if people start relying on a functionality like this, Twitter can't just say, oh, well, we're going to revoke whatever part of the API you're using so that you can't have this functionality anymore. Twitter, for whatever reason, and their engineers have gone on record of saying that the whole search archive and being able to call up tweets functionality is very difficult because we're talking many billions of tweets at this point. Sure. But they've got to want to buy Topsy, right?
I would assume so.
I mean, this is just Topsy saying, we're going to make it so that you have to acquire us.
Yeah, because I mean, just being able to get those analytics and understanding your history. I mean, it's like a mini diary. I don't know if a lot of people still keep journals, but you look at something like Twitter and think for some people, just being able to go back that far is just fun to be able to take that trip down memory lane. Although I think at the same time, it should make people a little bit more nervous in the sense that some of this stuff really doesn't go away. If it used to be kind of difficult to search really old tweets, now it's getting easier than ever. So I'm hoping I haven't said anything inappropriate in the past 7 years there.
Yes, there have definitely been a few tweets that that didn't go over well, that I tweeted, or, Veronica mentioned the first time that she swore on Twitter and it was a mistake. There have been a few times where I've done things like that for effect, and I've probably deleted a few tweets too. Usually it's because of like a spelling error or something I'm embarrassed about it doesn't really have anything to do with the tweet itself. But yeah, it was interesting to look at. I mean, my first, I would say, several months of using Twitter was, I was not, certainly, I didn't have a Twitter account in 2006, but I had a Twitter account. I was in that first wave of, kind of the techie people who wanted to have Twitter accounts. And I mean, I used Twitter exactly the way that people say Twitter is bad for now. I talked about what I was eating a lot.
I think we all did.
Yeah, because it used to say, what are you doing? That was the prompt to put in, your little Twitter window. Now it's what's happening, right? Or what's going on. But so and it was always like going to the store out of milk. It was like the most inane tweets that nobody would ever want to read. But for some reason, it seemed like in the early days, it was a lot more about like, I'm going to take a walk now. Or, ooh, it's dark outside. That's weird. I'm totally mortified by half the stuff I was saying.
Yeah, no, I'm in the same boat for sure. Now, Sarah, we got an interesting link from one of our viewers, Andy Piper. He sent us a link to this social media campaign that took place in London, England, although I think it's taking place elsewhere around the world. And it's called hashtag Mini Not Normal, and it's for people who drive a Mini. And there's a video that goes along with it. And it looks like Mini had this interactive campaign where they did things like real-time salutes on billboards, giving people gifts and doing things like gourmet food and cleaning of Minis. I'm trying to figure out exactly how this campaign worked because it seems like it's fairly elaborate. I don't know if you've looked into it anymore, but it seems like the billboards are changing as the cars go by, and looks kind of interesting.
Yeah, I watched the whole thing. And all I can really get from and this is in the UK, all I can really get from this is it was a way to sort of give back to Mini owners. You sort of like, yeah, look, there is something about, I know a couple people who have Minis, and there is something where Mini owners do feel some like affinity for other Mini owners. You're kind of in a little tribe, a little Mini club. And which is great. They're really cute cars. But yeah, it seemed like it was a campaign to, if you were a Mini owner and you were driving down this particular stretch of highway, there were billboards that would actually, they could see you on cameras, and then they'd be able to market to you, like, hey, guy in the blue Mini, would you like to get some free gas? And I don't really get it.
I know.
I'm not sure how they made sure that the people on the highway knew what they were doing and that this was speaking to them.
And that the people on the highway stayed safe. I mean, this is what I can't figure out. I just read an article on the drum.com, an article about this particular campaign. They talk about it being a digital campaign, which is perfect for our show and very interesting. But they mentioned that the campaign invited drivers to essentially interact with the billboards potentially, and there were spontaneous treats at the end. I just have this whole theory in my mind, and imagining people kind of tweeting when they're driving. I know they wouldn't have encouraged that, but I don't know. Maybe if Andy can give us a little more information on this, if he's listening to this show, he could let us know. But it seems like it's an interesting campaign from the standpoint that it was constantly changing and interactive, and got people really excited about driving around in their minis, and got them some good prizes too.
Yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. Mini not normal. It's funny when I first looked at the hashtag before I watched the video, I was like, mini not normal. That sounds like a terrible hashtag, But it was obviously I wasn't thinking of Minnie the car. It's cool. It's cool.
Yes,
yeah.
It's kind of fun.
Yeah, good work.
Definitely.
Good work, Minnie. All right, we've got a social question of the week, and this pertains to Path, the private social network for 150 people. Add in some new functionality. We can now group certain people of those 150 into a inner circle. It's kind of like you've got your close friends, and then you've got your super close friends, and maybe you only share your deepest secrets or the stuff that's really, really private with those folks, or maybe it's just your family part of Path, rather than your whole network there. But Path is also introducing some subscription models, aren't they?
Yeah, this is kind of interesting. So you can pay a fee to subscribe to Path, which I haven't used Path all that much there in the past little while. So I'm not sure if I necessarily would pay for Path, but it seems like it's an interesting option for people who are part of social networks and want an ad-free experience. So the subscriptions are selling for $1.99 a month on Android, or $4.99 for 3 months on iOS, and $14.99 for a year on both platforms. So
yeah, I use Path a fair amount. I would say I'm less enamored of Path than I have been in the past, but I certainly do use it on an almost daily basis. And I buy a fair amount of sticker packs. This is something that I spend money on. I've given Path, I don't know, $30 or so since they even introduced these sticker packs. So I understand that there is a way to make money here. I'm just not sure that I need every sticker pack, or that the idea of, and they're not asking that much money. I think it's $5 for 3 months of being a premium subscriber. Then I would get all sticker packs for free. Anything as far as like photo filters that cost another 99 cents in the Path store. And then if they introduce new stickers, keep saying stickers because that's all I associate Path with these days, that I would maybe get it before it's available to everybody else. I don't know, Amber. I just maybe it's actually monetarily makes more sense to just go all in rather than the a la carte model where I just buy stuff selectively. Maybe I would end up spending less. But something about this whole premium subscription model kind of bothers me. Maybe just because Path really increasingly doesn't feel much different than a lot of other social networks that I use. But on Facebook, I don't pay for anything. Mm-hmm. And, why? And Facebook has so much of the same functionality that Path does. Path kind of sometimes just seems like a mobile Facebook to me. So I'm not really sure where they're going with this.
It's interesting. I had just tweeted out the question before we started talking about this, and obviously a lot of people feel passionately about this because I probably have, I would say, a dozen or so people who have commented so far, and really a range of people who say that they would pay, people saying they wouldn't. At Tyson Williams wrote back and said, nope, I would not pay for it. Edward McIntyre, after I tweeted out, says, I'd pay $20 a year for an ad-free Facebook. Brian Best says, I do for LinkedIn because I need the service in my life for a job, and Path or Facebook doesn't need that. Generally speaking, Samuel O says only if they get rid of the ads and stop collecting our personal data. And Brett Taylor, who is actually my cousin from Vancouver, says, in my experience, adding a fee is a great way to kill a network. So no. So a bunch of different answers, but generally I think people are erring on the side of no, Sarah, similar to what you're saying. Now, I feel like I would pay if I felt like there was a social network that was really inundating me with ads, but I don't feel that way except for maybe Facebook, but I wouldn't pay for it anyway because it's just, in my life, it's just not one that I use the most. But I'd pay for, if Twitter, if something was wrong with the Twitter experience and I could pay for it, I think Twitter is the only social network that if I had to live with just one, it would definitely be Twitter.
Oh, easily. That's I agree with you there. And it's funny because Twitter has many shortcomings. You know, there are a variety of ways that I find, like, I think my main problem with Twitter is sometimes there'll be a tweet, I'm not understanding the context, and I kind of start to try to figure it out. And I know that Twitter's own conversations feature is designed absolutely to cut down on me getting things out of context, but sometimes I still feel like there's this conversation on Twitter that it's too much of an investment for me to get into, so I'm just going to drop it and move on because the tweets they keep coming in and I'll just read something else instead. Path is an interesting one, and I don't really know if Path if the numbers are in trouble or if they're as healthy as they need to be for a social network it kind of prides itself on being closed and not bloated. But there are definitely concerns in parts of the community that not that many people use Path. I mean, Veronica, she and I are Path friends, and she says she just doesn't really use it that often because she has so many friends who aren't going to use it, and she's better off spending her time on something like Facebook. And I kind of feel that way, but I wonder, this whole monetization thing, sure, companies need to make money, and Path is thinking outside the box, I guess, in many ways. They've got different money-making features that don't seem so like, oh, that's what all the networks do. But at the same time, sometimes, especially because Path hasn't been around that long, it can feel a little desperate. And you wonder, I mean, what do they have to do? Is the bottom line really, really getting to the point where they've got to give us all of these other options so that we end up buying something? I don't know.
Yeah, definitely. An interesting piece of feedback, a tweet that just came through is from it's Andy Akers, who says, only one I would see myself paying for is Google Plus, and only because author rank will be a powerful variable for exposure in the future. Do you know anything about author rank? I'm just trying to search it right now. But it seems like it's Google's way to make it easier to find work from specific writers and push them up in the search results and somehow link to Google+. I really don't know a lot about this. I'm just kind of searching articles on the fly, but looks like it's an interesting one to dig into.
Yeah, I don't really know anything about that either. I'm sort of embarrassingly not using Google+ at all right now, and I know that should change. But hey, I used to say that about Pinterest too, and I've become a convert. I haven't even turned off my Pinterest subscription emails.
And Snapchat.
And Snapchat too. I can start Snapchatting you, Amber, if you'd like to see a lot more of, cute little images of my cats. I can draw little hats on them and then send them to you and just mark it for 4 seconds, so it's not too much of a commitment on your part. I love it. Hey, speaking of Pinterest, Pinterest and Path, and some of you in the chat room, thank you by the way, have been reminding us that Pinterest and Path both want the trademark to that P logo. They do not have the same logo, but they both companies start with P. The little logo that's on the app icons for both companies are not all that different. It's kind of a cursive V looking little P. Yeah, Pinterest, Path, and the battle over P. The idea apparently is that the U.S. Trademark Office allowed Pinterest to register a trademark, an intent over this proposed design mark, but Path recently asked for an extension in order to file an opposition. Path says, no, if Pinterest has this, then they can make us change our icon, or maybe even the whole thing. Might have to write out Pinterest and something where they could claim, oh, well, users are confused. You can't have that logo anymore. I would say And maybe it's just because I see the words path and Pinterest under those icons as I'm looking at them right now. But I think even if I didn't see them, I would know exactly that path is on the left and Pinterest is on the right, because I'm used to those icons. And, branding is very important. And it would be a bit of a blow to either company to have to change it now.
Yeah, definitely. But it's funny. I never thought about them looking similar, but when you see them in that context, it does seem like it could be the same company, right?
Yeah.
They are that similar, and it's funny to see how much they match. I don't know if they've really obviously didn't mean to do that, but it's a ton of similarities between the two.
And it's unfortunate because it's like, well, what do they really have in common? It's the letter P, and that whole kind of the font style, that's just very popular right now. Instagram kind of has the Instagram logo is it's kind of a cute little cursive thing. It's just sort of this. We go through these waves of what apps look like, and we've got curved corners, and we've got cute little icons that are the first letter of the company. It's like, yeah, it's probably coincidental, but at this point, both companies say, well, we don't want people to be confused. So.
Yeah, no, of course not. It makes it definitely. I can't see people really being that confused. I feel like the Pinterest one is more identifiable in many ways, but I could see the beef. It makes sense because they are that similar.
All right, let's take a moment to thank Shutterstock.com for sponsoring this episode of The Social Hour. We love Shutterstock because it's a great place to find the perfect image or the perfect video for your next creative project. Amber, you spend a lot of time making sure that people are aware of what you're up to on your website, because you've got all sorts of projects that you're working on. You do a TV show, you do this show, you've got your own consulting company, you're out speaking. Do you find the need sometimes for great stock images and videos because it can convey something about some of your projects, or it can help build your projects, but you don't really have time to go out and shoot all of this yourself?
Yeah, definitely. When I first heard about Shutterstock, one of the first things I did was I went there and I grabbed some images for the keynote presentation that I do on a regular basis, and I swapped out all the images I had found with some really great images from Shutterstock. So I think for anyone who is presenting and wants really great visuals, then it's the perfect place to go. And I think I know now, after speaking at maybe, 250 events, how important it is that you have visuals in any presentation. And many times just a slide with a really moving image and a few words can be more powerful than anything. And the same thing for some of the stock videos that they have. It's a great option. Like not everybody's going to be able to get outside and shoot a video of ducks flying at sunset, right? But to be able to go on and find some of these videos on Shutterstock, it's saving you a ton of money in the long run.
Absolutely. One of the things about Shutterstock that's so fun for me is it's not only that we don't have time, or maybe we're not in the right place to go out and shoot these great videos, but the videos on Shutterstock are really high quality. A lot of this stuff is stuff where I say, I probably could not do that myself. I don't have that kind of equipment. I don't have some fancy camera. I just don't have it. And the contributors to Shutterstock are professional filmmakers, professional animators, professional photographers. These are people who know what they're doing. This is quality stuff. Plus, Shutterstock, the team, reviews each video, every single video that comes in for content and quality before it even gets added to the library. So Shutterstock knows, hey, you're a busy person. If you want to use Shutterstock, you're taking this stuff seriously. You only want the good stuff. Oh, that's so funny. Yeah, you notice this. This is a green screen of a kitty in front of Shutterstock, which you could then superimpose into your creative projects. I don't know how to do that. I could just pull it up on Shutterstock. That's right. And they're adding 10,000 video clips per week, which is per week.
I know, but I'm laughing at per thing.
Oh, I see what you did there. Yeah, per week. See? The social hour is just better with superimposed cats. Let's be honest. It just makes it better. This is all Shutterstock stuff. and a little bit of Brian too, because he knows how green screens work. Sophisticated tools. So, hey, maybe you say, I never want superimposed cats over my projects. Well, they've got all sorts of content. You can search by keyword or by color. Hey, maybe you've got some sort of like a music video and everything's yellow and you want yellow things. I mean, you really let your imagination run wild. And the company recently partnered with Facebook to provide advertising customers free access to all of its images through Facebook's ad creation tool. You may have heard about this. It's a great resource for local businesses that want professional looking ads. We've all seen ads on Facebook where we think, ugh, that just looks really chintzy. Well, it's going to look a lot better for businesses who can take advantage of all that Shutterstock has to offer. And that might be you. And if it is, then then you've got to check out Shutterstock.com. Don't need a credit card. You can just sign up for a free account and start trying out Shutterstock today. Once you decide to purchase a plan, use the offer code SOCIALHOUR9. You audio listeners are really missing out.
There's a cat walking across
I urge you to download the video portion of this podcast today, even if you never do again. Today. Scat. Social Hour 9 is the code you need to use once you decide to purchase. You know why? Because that new account of yours will receive 30% off any package. That's Shutterstock.com. And for 30% off new accounts, that's a great savings. 30%. Use that offer code Social Hour and then the number 9, all one word, Social Hour 9. And thanks to Shutterstock for sponsoring this episode of the Social Hour. Oh, Amber, I'm really giving you your cat
allergies.
Well, I was going to say your quota, but yes.
Oh, cat quota. Yeah.
Well, see, I feel like you can't hold an actual cat, or you would be sneezing. So.
But virtual cats walking across the screen, Sarah, that's cool with me. I'm okay with that.
Good.
It's all good.
Glad to hear it.
Now, we have a bunch of feedback on the show. This is a really interesting email. It's from Lars in Vienna, Austria, who says, I often leave the smartphone at home. When I climb a mountain, I only take a basic functionality, crappy old Nokia, battery life 1 week for emergencies with me. Another thing I and my friends do, every one of us works too much. So when we finally find time to join for dinner, all the smartphones go into the bread basket or we stack them in the middle of the table. And the rule is the first one to grab his phone pays the whole bill. Even repeat offenders now manage to stay 3 hours away from mail, Facebook, Twitter, etc. Social media is great, but I think overusing it can be a problem. I even had one person, and this is unbelievable, continuously looking at his smartphone during a job interview. You can guess we shredded his CV afterwards. So thank you for sharing that. And I know a lot of people who do the phone stack during meals too, Sarah. I don't know if you know anyone who does that, but I don't know how I would fare. I would probably have to pay the bill.
Yeah. I have heard of these sorts of things. I like the idea. The idea is, hey, let's all encourage each other to be present. If there's a group of friends at dinner, well, we're all sitting at dinner because we want to be together. Let's just take the distraction away. And you can kind of make it a fun game of, hey, if I simply can't help myself, then I'm going to pick up the bill. And so you've got a little bit of an incentive to fight the urge. But at the same time, I don't really know many dinners that I would go to that this would work well in practice. I feel like it's a little pushy or something. I've been in situations recently where the person that I am talking to clearly is not going to be checking Twitter at any point. And so I kind of get that. It's like an unspoken etiquette thing where I get the vibe that it wouldn't be cool. And so I refrain. But I was at a birthday dinner last night, and everybody's kind of, we're smartphone happy people, and the phones were, we're taking pictures of each other and posting stuff, and it was all in good fun. And I think if I would have suggested that we pile our phones in the middle of the table, I probably would have been asked to leave the restaurant.
It depends who you're with, though. Oh, Sarah, I'm just letting you know that your necklace is hitting the mic.
Oh, I'm sorry about that. Oh, let's move that.
It really depends, I think, who you're with, because I have some friends where I know it's okay. And for those friends where I know that they just would never do that, I just put the phone away. But there are friends of mine who, they want to be on their phone. They want to be sharing stuff. They want to be checking. And there are times where I want to have my phone nearby. And I don't know if this is just something, especially since I had a child, like to go 3 hours without having my phone and knowing my son's with someone else or whatever, I really feel like I need to have it close by. So it's one of those things where I think it's a necessity for some people to just be close to it, not necessarily checking it all the time, but I'm not just going to put the phone somewhere and walk away for 6 or 7 hours because, I think there might be people who I may want to hear from.
Yeah. Exactly. It's a case by case type of a thing. But Lars, you give us something to think about, and some good points were made. I can't imagine anybody continuously looking at their smartphone during an interview. That's just silly. That's person would be a distracted employee. That's for sure.
No kidding.
All right, we got another email from OC, who is in Los Angeles. All right, okay. OC is your name. Sarah and Amber, says OC. I don't know if you saw this article, but it's from the LA Times about anger over too many visitors descending on the Silver Lake area, that's a neighborhood in eastern Los Angeles, using Airbnb for vacation rentals. Neighbors are complaining about the noise and traffic and parking problems that have ensued. I went ahead and read this article, Amber. Yeah, and this is actually something that it's weird. I don't live in LA, and I don't, I'm not hanging out in this particular neighborhood, but I've heard this from other neighborhoods and other people in other cities as well. And the idea is that, and this particular article highlights a woman who's part of a growing group of people who say, hey, the economy's bad right now. I'm doing, I've got part-time work, but I don't have a job where I can pay my mortgage or my rent, so I'm using Airbnb to supplement my income with great results. This particular woman, there's a picture of her in the article, says, I rent out my master bedroom, I'm sleeping in the den, and I'm bringing in about $37,000 a year. So, yeah, it's probably not enough to cover her on its own, but it's helping her get by because her work situation isn't optimal right now. However, that means that there are just more people coming and going. Neighbors see more and more people that they don't know or recognize or feel that, oh, that's actually a person that lives there. In my apartment building, Amber, there are a few units. There's probably about 15 units in my building. There are a few units that are Airbnb units. And it's never made me feel unsafe. But it is a little jarring when there's some people from France recently, and they were trying to communicate with me, and I was just like, I've never even seen you before. Are you supposed to be here? So I can see where neighbors, especially homeowners, they obviously have invested in their community, feel uneasy about this whole thing because there are a lot of random people all of a sudden.
Yeah, I totally get it. I mean, I think it's a situation where it could be problematic because so many of us rely on just the comfort of knowing our neighbors and people who are beside us, whether we're in an apartment building or in a detached house, whatever it might be. But I also see the other side of things when people maybe have to rent their homes and it's a way for them to be able to make money. And I don't know. I mean, I've never used Airbnb, so I'm guessing there's some type of mechanism where you can rate the people who are renting. And if they do cause problems, then that would be used against them. Sarah, is that true or not?
Yes, and that goes both ways too. As a renter, if I stay somewhere and I didn't have a great experience, I can say so. And people who are thinking about renting that place in the future would have the option to take my words at face value or whatever. But yes, there's definitely a rating system, but that doesn't really apply to all of the people just who are kind of observing this as outsiders too.
Yeah, it's hard, right? There's no way for them to really be part of that conversation. Oh, I don't know what a good answer is, but if there's anyone who's listening or watching it and has a good answer, definitely let us know. And this next email is from Scott Pantel, who says, this morning I started to wonder if I wanted to see the data of everyone on Facebook and Twitter using the same hashtag, is there a tool to do that? After some searching, I found one, tagboard.com. With Tagboard, you can search using a hashtag, and it will show you public posts for Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, app.net, Vine, and Google+. It's one of the coolest social media tools I've ever seen. I can't wait to check it out once hockey season starts. Thanks. Scott, I have not, I know I've heard of Tagboard, but I can't remember if I've ever used it before, but I love it, just the description of it.
Yeah, it's awesome. And Scott he even pointed out to us, like, I don't work for them, by the way. I just think it's cool, because he's so, sometimes the glowing report, you get defensive, like, I know you think that I'm just trying to promote this company, but this is just something I like. Yeah, I hockey's with an E, Brian. Oh, Brian. But there's plenty of people who misspell it as well.
If you come to Canada, Brian, you'll get in a lot of trouble for that, just so you know.
Oh, we got Brian behind the board, who's you are a wonderful technical director, by the way, Brian. He's got a lot on his mind today. The E was just a little oversight. But yeah, this is kind of cool because I search for keywords and subject matter all the time on Twitter, and hashtags now are a part of Facebook, but they're kind of new still. And then, I'd never even really thought about searching for hashtags on something like Vine, but on Instagram, they're a big part of Instagram, but it certainly is nice to say, hey, if I'm just interested in, cats or hockey or a TV show that I like a lot, or, whatever, something like Social Hour, Amber, we could look at everybody who wants us to, to gives us a heads up about who's talking about Social Hour beyond Twitter and everything else too, and that's great.
Yeah, no, it's fun. I mean, it sounds familiar, but if I've heard about it before, I really haven't used it. So thank you so much for the reminder, because it seems like something I would use all the time. I just love the way, and it's very visually interesting, and a really great tool for anyone who's trying to manage and keep track of conversations and just wants a different way to search social.
Exactly. Turns out a lot of other people use Social Hour online. That's what I'm noticing by that last search is there's us and then there's the other social hours of the world. And that's interesting
It's
too.
all different.
Yeah, we've got to know who our competition is. We want to hear from all of you. Thanks to everybody who emails us and tweets at us. And we want to get more of your conversations into every show. Amber and I recently decided hashtag Social Hour is that's going to be our Twitter moniker and elsewhere that accepts hashtag, the hashtag lexicon. You can also write us at thesocialhour@twit.tv, of course. You can leave us a voicemail if you want us to hear your voice at 2626-SOCIAL. And just more the merrier. This is a community effort. So thanks to everybody who joins us each week on this fine program. All right, before we get to Amber's Rad or Fab, we want to take a moment to thank Squarespace for sponsoring this episode of The Social Hour. Everybody at Twit loves Squarespace because it's not hard to show off an amazing website with a cool design, with great features, with a team that's very supportive, because Squarespace is in the business of doing just that. It's the place to build a professional, high quality website or blog. In fact, they have 20 new templates, nice looking templates to start with. So you want to check those out. Maybe you've been thinking about putting together a blog, but seems kind of daunting, or you just need a little inspiration, or maybe there was no template that really spoke to you before. It's time to take a look. Lots of style options to create something that's unique, that will showcase you or your business and make you look like no other blog out there. It's very easy to use, inexpensive. Starts at just $8 a month, which includes a free domain name if you sign up for a year. That support is very, very important. You run into a problem or you have a question about how something works, that team is on call 24/7 to help you. And your site's not going to go down if you're lucky enough to ever get to a point where a bunch of people are visiting your site at once. You don't have to worry about them not being able to access your content. It's mobile ready as well. All designs automatically include a mobile experience that match the style of your website. And in fact, we talk so much about how great your website's going to look. There's probably a lot of you out there who say, yeah, I have a really cool website. Could be fun to see my website used as an example the next time Sarah and Amber talk about Squarespace. So we're gonna give you an opportunity to do just that. Send a tweet with a link to your Squarespace website to hashtag #TwitSquarespace. So TWIT Squarespace. And then we'll take a look at it and we may feature your Squarespace site in a future episode. And I think that helps everybody, Amber. We'll kind of have a Squarespace site of the week, or
I love it. Yeah. That's a great idea.
Yeah, because then you get some people who say, "Oh my goodness,
plug.
Yeah, that Social Hour fan has the best website ever," and then they're your fan, and everybody wins. All right, want to start a trial? Give it a go. Get featured. That sounds like good, right? No credit card required. Start building your website. And if you want to sign up for Squarespace, make sure to use the offer code SocialHour9, Social Hour number 9, and get 20% off to show your support for the Social Hour. It's just a little gift from us to you. And we thank Squarespace for their support of our show. Amber, what is on the rad or fad agenda this time?
Okay, so I don't know if you've seen this. I did tweet it out yesterday, so I'm hoping you didn't see it. But nonetheless, this is an app that just came out, I believe, 24 hours ago. It's called Perch. It is an iOS app, so maybe something you can cover on your other show. And it's very cool, Sarah. And what it does is it allows you to create your own always-on video connection. It's like a video portal if you want to have face-to-face video conversations with people through iPads. Now, the context, and they describe this in the video here, the context is, let's say you work remotely and you work with someone else and they're also working remotely, and you both had iPads mounted somewhere or on stands. Then if you were to walk in front of that iPad, then using facial recognition, the app recognizes you and instantly opens up the communication so you can have a conversation with that person. And the concept being that instead of having to Skype someone, it's like this always on video, this video capability. So you could also use it in families. Let's say if I wanted to do this in my kitchen and have my parents also have an iPad with this app on it, they could have that on, and I could do an instant video chat with them too. So...
does it seem that much more convenient than a Skype or other video messaging solution to you?
Well, here's the thing. I think that I'm sold on the fact that they call it a video portal. And I feel like the geek in me just loves this. I love the idea of walking in front of an iPad and all of a sudden it going on because it recognizes my face and knows that I want to talk. So I just can't get over it. So I'm obviously giddy because I think it is kind of rad. It's one of those things where I haven't tried it out yet, but I'm going to for sure. And I think it could be interesting. Yeah, Skype's not difficult, let's be honest here. But I think this is a new way. If you have an extra iPad lying around, and I know not everybody does, that you could have a portal to someone important in your life. And I just can't get over that. It excites me for some weird reason.
I think it's, we're looking at like a video that the Perch team has put together, and it does seem for an office situation, if you've got offices in different places where everybody can't be in the same place at the same time, but that face-to-face communication is important, works out really well. I don't want this in my house. What if you're in the buff or you just look crappy and you sort of are like, oh God, I don't want you to see me right now. I mean, I think in a situation where it's like you're always going to look fairly presentable.
Sure.
This works really well, but it's probably, there's varying levels of comfort. And I know that there are some teams where people say like, I don't know, I mean, we don't always have to be video chatting with each other. But I think there are more and more as people work more remotely, and you've got satellite offices, and you've got global companies that have presences. Yeah, that sounds weird all of a sudden. In different cities and different countries, tools like this just make more and more sense. And Perch seems like a really nice solution.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, that's how they really are pitching it, as something that is for office workers. I know because it uses facial recognition that when you look away, the app detects that and then mutes. So that's kind of interesting too, because that you can kind of silence it. So it feels like I found the demo video a little bit confusing. I'm not going to lie. When I watched it, it didn't help me understanding how the app worked. But when I read about it, I think it's really cool and kind of interesting. I do think it's kind of rad. I'm going to try it out for sure. I just want to get a sense of, I do some work remotely with people and see if this is something that we could use. But like I said, Sarah, I think from a marketing perspective, they kind of nailed it when they called it a video portal. Like the portal into someone else's work area that is just as easy as kind of walking up, having it turned on, and talking. I like the idea.
I'm okay. Yeah, I as long as I'm clothed, I would like you to always have a portal into my video world, Amber. Let's just say that right now.
Thank you, Sarah. I feel a lot better now.
It's like you want the information, I will give you the information.
Yeah. No, exactly. I think it has to be the right situation.
Yeah.
But it's neat. I'm definitely going to try it out and see how it actually works. But kind of a fun one. And, the world needs more video portals, Sarah. That's
Absolutely.
what it's really about.
Perch, good on you. All right, so I think that's 2 rads from us.
Yeah, 2 rads.
2 rads for a
very
wonderful Friday in September. Speaking of Fridays in September, this particular episode on September 6th, 2013, episode of The Social Hour has come to a close. It's been a wonderful hour plus. We had Veronica Belmont as our guest in the first portion of the show. That was so much fun. We had news. We had some social media snafus. We had some emails and great insight from some of you. And we finished it off with a kitten in a garbage can. And that just doesn't get better.
It doesn't get any better. Seriously, the audio listeners are going to be so confused. But literally, this is what's happening from Shutterstock. There are all of these kitten and cat videos that are going on screen, especially in front of Sarah. But I think this one just visited me, and it's just kind of fun. It's like pop-up video.
Yeah.
So you have to download and watch the video.
You have to, you guys. And then you're going to see that we're lovely, and then you won't be able to help yourselves unless you're driving. Do not watch if you're driving.
But now I kind of want these videos on every show, Sarah, or every episode.
We can do that.
Every episode where we have Shutterstock, we definitely need to have some type of pop-up cat.
I'm down for that. Perfect. Good. We're on the same page. I've converted you. All right. Thanks to everybody for watching and listening to this episode of The Social Hour. You can always go to twit.tv/TSH for our show archives, all the links to all the interesting articles and services that we discuss on every episode. Amber, anything great coming up between now and the next time I see you in a week?
I'm trying to think. Well, the Toronto International Film Festival is happening right now. So lots of big stars in the city, lots of parties going on. I have a couple of events I may go to, but chances are I may also just sit at home and watch that hashtag go across Twitter instead of going out. We'll see what happens. I'm not very exciting, Sarah, but I'm too tapped into this whole world. I can't get out. I need a portal. I need help.
Well, perhaps you'd like a portal tomorrow at 1 p.m. Pacific time, because I will be going to a book signing for Lil Bub in San Francisco.
Are you serious?
And I get to meet her.
Oh my goodness. So where is Bub doing the book signing?
So Bub has a book, and Bub has, she's on a book tour. So on tomorrow, she is at an art gallery. I've never been there before. It's called the Spoke Art Gallery. It's sold out because there's only a certain amount of tickets that they allowed to be bought. Luckily, I got in early enough. Then she's also doing a second appearance at it's actually like a music venue on Sunday. And I'm not really sure what the details of that are because I'm not going to that one, but I will be there. I'm gonna line up at 12:30 tomorrow because I want to be one of the first to meet Bub before she gets tired or overwhelmed, so that I have enough time to make her love me, and then she'll move to San Francisco, and then we'll hang out all the time.
Oh my goodness! You have to take pictures and tweet them. I'm guessing you are, right?
Oh yes.
Well, good luck. That's
That's
much more exciting.
Yeah, no, I was waiting the whole show to tell you about that. I was very excited.
I can tell. So at Space Guy 1 on Twitter just says The Social Hour now with 20% more cats. Mm-hmm. It's true.
Yeah, we're gonna get that percentage up. You know.
Yeah. Sarah's going to increase it. So next week on the show, you will tell us about actually meeting Little Bub in person and that whole experience.
Correct. Yes, I'll have lots of stories for next week. All right, everybody, that's it for good this time. From Petaluma, where it's hot outside, I'm going to get out and enjoy my afternoon. I'm Sarah Lane.
And I'm Amber MacARTHUR, and we'll see you soon.